Welcome to the zoning hearing board meeting for April 4th, 2023. We have a quorum of five members for the board. I know you're not seeing everybody here, but they're online. You can see them there. So we have a full quorum. We're only hearing one appeal tonight. It's appeal 23-1999, and I'm going to hand it over to our conflict counsel here, Russell Sacco, to explain the process tonight. So.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, board. As Mr. Shaw indicated, my name is Russ Sacco. I gotta keep it pushed. Okay. I'm sorry. Let's start that over again. Good evening, everyone. My name is Russ Sacco. I was appointed conflict counsel for the zoning hearing board at the zoning hearing board's March 21st meeting. At that meeting, the hearing was continued to this evening, April 4th. At that original March 21st hearing date, the solicitor for the zoning hearing board recused himself due to a potential conflict of interest, as well as one of the board members. She also recused herself. So we have 5 board members hearing the hearing this evening, and this hearing will probably go on for a couple of hearings, and we're going to explain that procedure to everyone momentarily. But hearing this evening is the chair, Peter Solar, our vice chair, James Dougherty, and participating via Zoom is Matt Connors, Michael McVan, and alternate James Brandt. So there are a number of attorneys involved in this appeal. The appellant is here, represented by Christopher Schubert. Schubert, if you want to go ahead and stand up so we can identify all the parties. The congregation Bethel is represented by Ed Murphy. We received an email this afternoon indicating that he was representing the congregation and that he was unable to attend this evening. Also, I've been in contact with Gregory Leniak, and I apologize if I just abused your last name. I think I got it right. So we've had a communication with the attorneys in light of the fact that Mr. Leniak was recently retained by, I know, a few neighbors, and he wanted obviously an opportunity to prepare for this hearing, and we wanted to also provide him that courtesy, as well as Mr. Murphy, who was recently retained. So what we did in order to kind of move the hearing process along, but not prejudice the parties, was we wanted to utilize this evening's hearing, since it's been scheduled and everyone got noticed, to kind of identify the parties who are going to take part in the proceeding, and then kind of lay the groundwork for the next hearing. And at the end of this hearing, we'll continue this hearing to a date certain, which we can all agree upon. So we're going to kind of take care of housekeeping. What that means is, I know a lot of people are here this evening. You will all have an opportunity to speak against or for the application, or say whatever you want pertaining to the application at a later hearing. But because testimony is not going to be taken tonight, so just to go over the procedures, typically what will happen is the applicant will present testimony. They'll present their witnesses. The persons or the attorneys who are here representing parties will have an opportunity to cross-examine those witnesses. The board will have an opportunity to question those witnesses. And the public will have an opportunity to comment, not necessarily cross-examine witnesses unless you want to take party status. So establishing party status for various parties may take a little time, which is why we wanted to have this hearing this evening. So if everyone is on board with that, we're going to move forward. What I'd like to do is just identify the exhibits that we're going to get started with. There will be various exhibits presented over the next meeting or two that we'll identify and admit or not admit into evidence. But for this evening's purposes and to get started, we're going to introduce and admit Board Exhibit B1, which is the proof of publication for this evening's hearing. B2 is the B for as in board. B2 is the proof of posting. B3 is the notice to the neighbors. That was dated, I believe, March 24th. And B4 is an email from the appellant's attorney dated March 6th, I believe, to Mr. Majewski, requesting the continuance to April and also waiving the time requirements under the municipal planning code to hear the hearing, although we are having our initial hearing within 60 days. We're also going to identify two exhibits for the appellant. A1, which is the appellant's application. That's the zoning hearing board application we're here for this evening. That's dated February 13th, 2023. And there's an addendum to that application. And along with the application, we'll mark as A2 the 12-page plan that was submitted with the application. So if the board is okay with it, I believe the next step would be to identify persons who would like to be involved as a party to the proceeding. Now, I know Mr. Leniak is representing a group, and perhaps we can start with you, and you can identify by name who you're representing.
You want to put the sign-in sheet on the table down there with a pen so that people have access to it when they come up.
Russ, do you want to take a minute too, after Mr. Leniak's done, to explain to some people in the audience what being a party to this matter means?
Sure, absolutely. It's a good point.
And
Thank you. That was my next question.
Being a party to this because there has to be some side to the connection to the.
You don't have to stay. Good evening, members of the zoning hearing board. As Mr. Sacco said, my name is Gregory Heleniak. I'm the firm Rudolph Clark. I'm here tonight representing 8 families who are in the immediate proximity of the subject property. They all received mailed notice from the township on behalf of the zoning hearing board. Those parties, and I have a list that I can share for the ease of applicant's counsel, as well as your court reporter and your solicitor, certainly for spelling. But our group consists of the following persons: Anthony and Maureen Manarino of 405 Stony Hill Road. And I should say, in this packet that I handed up to the solicitor as well as applicant's counsel, attached to that is a printout from the Bucks County GIS parcel records. Highlighted in blue was the subject parcel where Bethel is located. And the properties highlighted in green are the properties of the families that I represent here this evening. So the first is Anthony and Maureen Manarino of 405 Stony Hill Road. Stephen and Deborah Cianci of 364 Twig Lane. Paul and Francine Olaire of 387 Twig Lane. Corinne and Chetan Desai of 388 Twig Lane. Thomas Meyer and Dawn Meyer of 389 Twig Lane. Mike and Corinne Rossi of 390 Twig Lane. John and Laura Muldowney of 392 Twig Lane. And Leonard and Denise McMullen of 394 Twig Lane. And I apologize to my clients if I mispronounce any of their names on the record. As I stated, they all received mailed notice from the township. And you can see their close proximity to the subject property on the attached exhibit to the list. So I would ask that they be recognized as parties, both individually and collectively represented by me.
Okay, the board accepts that. A couple of other things here. A request for people to turn their phones off or mute them, and a little bit more of a discussion on what qualifies as party status to help some people in the audience here potentially distinguish whether you can be a party or not. So, Russ?
Right. Thank you. So what you just heard was an attorney indicating who he's representing with respect to party status. These property owners all live on Twig Lane. Many of the properties are adjacent to this parcel, and many are in the direct vicinity of it. So you don't have to be adjacent to the parcel to have party status, but you have to be impacted by the application. Now, obviously, this is a cell tower, So that could be a little bit subjective. However, you do have to establish that you would be impacted by the application if it in fact were granted. But I also want to kind of highlight being a party doesn't mean that you can't, or if you're not a party, it doesn't mean that you can't speak on or for or against the application. Being a party means that you're actually partaking in the hearing. It means you have the right to appeal the decision of the zoning hearing board, whether it's favorable or not favorable. It also means you can partake in cross-examination of the witnesses. So that is what being a party actually is to the action. Whether you live in the township, whether you're adjacent to this application, whether you're for it or whether you're against it, everyone will have an opportunity to speak their mind and speak on the behalf of the application or against the application. So with that being said, is there anyone else in the audience who is going to ask to have party status? And if you do, if you could establish where you reside and why you feel you have
Yeah, please come up to the microphone. State your name and address.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Tom.
Yes. Yeah, and again, it's very important that the court reporter is going to try to take everything down, every word. But that only happens if you're at the microphone speaking into the microphone. So anything that's said in the audience, we're just not going to be able to take down as part of the record.
For this additional resident speaks, I think what I need to do is to protect on behalf of my client the issue of an objection to party status with regard to at least some of the clients that Mr. Heleniak is representing based upon my review of the tax map parcel. The issue, of course, is with regard to adjoining property owners. There is a presumption that there would be a direct and adverse effect of any proposed development on adjoining property. That is just a presumption. That does not mean that there would necessarily be a direct and adverse effect on that particular property owner in the vicinity of the property. In looking at this, I don't have any problem with what Mr. Heleniak has identified as his clients, except for the properties that are on the north side of Twig Lane. That would be the 389 Twig Drive Myers, who own that property, and 387 Twig Lane, the Olyars. In addition, I would also identify these Seances at 364 Twig Lane. So I would like to preserve my right to object to party status on those. And in the event that all but these individuals are dropped out, that's where I think it would become relevant.
Okay. Well, I think we've established, and I think you've indicated that all of the parties that you've indicated that you represent received notice.
And they are all on our notice list here. So every one of them received notice. Got their addresses around here and their names. So.
Just
And
to make,
for everyone's information, the notice list are all properties within 300 feet of the subject property of the appeal.
those three properties, it was 389 Twig, 387 Twig, and what was the third one? 364?
364 was the third one.
364.
And that one is not on the list here.
I believe that they're indicating that's not on the notice list
Yeah.
that was sent out, mailed to the township, by the township.
I guess before I go,
You're not presenting testimony. You're just going to be stating your name, your address, and why you believe you have party status.
perfect. So my name is Thomas Hughes. I'm at parcel 20-060-088. That's 391 North Flint Court. I'm directly adjacent to the property in question. My name shows up on the plans Z-2, right next to the chart for the various lot allowances.
And you're requesting party status?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. You should, why don't you sign in just to make sure we got your info? Okay. I saw another hand go up in the back. Do you want to come forward, please?
Dylan, my name is George Fox. I own 417 Stony Hill Road and the few properties next to it that did not get the letter, but my 417 property did. And I would request party status.
Okay. All right, is there anybody else who would like party status? Keeping in mind the distinction. Okay. Like we said before, being the party status is so that you can do cross-examination that you as a member of the public, you can speak no matter what. So you don't have to have party status for that. So go ahead, name and address.
Ray Wilhoff, 304 Cinnabar Lane. Okay, sorry. Ray Wilhoff, 304 Cinnabar. I did get a letter. Willhoft. And I did get a letter on this, a couple of houses down from the nearest house that shows on your property application. So I'm fairly close.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
You did.
Why don't you sit up there?
Okay. Just to put this on, the other residents that have come up have also been on the list here for notices. So. All right. Well, you are, we know. Well, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll address that. So no, you cannot do that. However, as indicated, we aren't taking any substantive testimony this evening. So at the next hearing, because we don't know where this testimony is going to go. So there may be during testimony, somebody gets impacted that they didn't feel were going to be impacted. And so they can request party status. So it can be requested at the next hearing.
Come on up.
Good evening. My name is Larry Smith. I'm representing my wife Linda and myself. We did get the letter. We are at 386 Twig Lane, adjacent to one of the properties that had previously been mentioned, and we wish to have party status also.
Okay. What was your address again?
386 Twig Lane.
Okay, please sign in on the paperwork there.
Where do you see 037?
No, I called in on the phone. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Yes, please state your name and address clearly.
Okay, it's Jerry Stoffel, Stoffel. My wife Kathy. We live at 305 Cinnabar Lane, and we received the letter as well, and we request status as well.
Okay, thank you. All right, ma'am, don't even come up.
Laura Ginsburg, 390.
Hold mic down and speak directly into it.
Laura Ginsburg, 397 Northfield Stone. Our property adjacent right to the subject property, and I would like to request the status.
Excuse me, did you receive a letter?
Oh, a bunch of, at least 3.
Sir, in the back there, you can come up now.
My name is Brian Cohen. I received a letter. I live at 383 Hidden Oaks Drive. My property is directly across Stony Hill Road from the property.
Okay.
Okay, so now I have to disclose, Mr. Cohen, I've recognized very well. I've represented Mr. Cohen numerous times over the past few years with his, well, I'm not gonna tell you why I represented him, but for good things. So obviously, representing the board and representing an objector, there is a potential conflict of interest. Unfortunately. So in order for me to proceed, and this decision doesn't have to be made this evening because we're not getting into any substantive testimony, I will need appropriate waivers from the board, from Mr. Cohen, and I feel from all the parties at this point.
Mr. Sacco, are you still, I don't know if this is on or not. Are you still representing Mr. Cohen?
Yes, it's an ongoing representation.
I can certainly take that under advisement with my client, and I don't know what Mr. Heleniak's position would be on that.
Right. And I'll ask the board to do the same as well. You don't have to make a decision this evening.
Okay, sir, there, you can come up now.
My name is Darrell Belinsky, 308 Cinnabar Lane. We're adjacent to the walkway to the congregation Bethel.
Okay, and you are on our notice list, so I presume you got a notice.
308 Cinnabar Lane. We're right at the dead end.
Okay. Sir?
I'm Christian Schwartz. My wife Christine and I live at 306 Cinnabar, which is right next door to Maureen and Darrell. We did receive notice.
Okay. You can come forward and you speak in the microphone.
My name is Maria Di Donato, and I live on Tall Meadow Lane, and I would like to also request status.
We need your address.
388.
So you did not receive a notice would be the correct answer.
Did not, but I'm on the next block.
Okay, so we'll take this under advisement, but it will probably be a discussion at the next meeting. Just be aware of that, of why you believe you have party status.
So should I put my name down?
Yes.
You put your name there, but just
And address.
Yep.
And address. I'm sorry, your full name and address. Thanks.
And also, when you're done with that, if you could just spell your name for the court reporter.
You have to speak into the mic with spell your name out.
And just so it's clear for the record as well, if a a party requesting or a person requesting party status has not received the letter, just please note my objection to that.
Maria, capital DI, capital DO, NATO, D Donato. Okay.
Yes, in the back there. And again, just a reminder, you don't have to have party status to be able to speak to this. Again, so the party status just is that you want to have the ability to be represented in if there's future litigation, or you want the ability to appeal to the Court of Common Pleas. So just want to put that back out there again. If you're not a party, you can still talk, you can still come up, present. So
Nancy Gaston Festa.
speak closer to the mic.
I'm Nancy Gaston Festa. My husband is Mike, and we request status. We did get notification. We're at 379 Hidden Oaks Drive, neighbors of Brian Cohen. So if he can't participate, we hopefully can. It's FESTA.
Okay, so I saw one more hand in the back or in front. There you are. Come on up.
John Sullivan and my wife Diane, 400 Stony Hill Road. We'd like status, and we did get a notice.
You did.
Yes.
Okay, so
Anybody else? Okay.
come on up.
Oh, my name's Thomas Cloud, 429 Stony Hill Road, also with my wife Susan Cloud. We are 3 lots over and approximately 850 feet from the proposed tower. Our concern is health issues. I did not
Just
receive the
looking-
letter.
Yeah. Okay.
Make sure you put your address on there too. Your full name and your address. Thanks.
Did not receive a letter. He's not on the list. 850. Okay, anybody else? Okay, come forward to the microphone. Now, just because you're requesting and just a reminder here, which is what the Mr. Schubert was addressing there, which was just because you're requesting party status, we still get to make a decision about whether you have party status or not. So that's where some of the questions that he was starting with coming out from. So go ahead.
Lisa Leccione, 2311 Weinman Way. I did not receive a letter. I'm a resident of the township. Liccione.
Just a quick question. What's your proximity to the location?
I don't know exactly. Probably within half a mile.
I have a participant online here that wants to request status.
Okay.
Just drag her into the live room.
Yep.
Okay, bringing her in now. Okay, Cheryl, you're here with the board.
Thank you.
State your full name and address.
Cheryl Duffy, 331 North Flint Court. And I received a letter and I would like to request status.
So noted.
Thank you.
Somebody else in the crowd here?
I'm Dan Madden and my wife Kelly is there as well. 379 Twig Lane. We did not receive a letter, but would just like to go on record. Madden, M-A-D-D-E-N.
Well, that's not what we're doing right now. We're just asking about party status. So the question is.
I'd like to
you'll be able
request party status.
Okay. Okay. Yes, like I said, we're going to discuss next time whether these requests are going to be acknowledged or not acknowledged, by the way. So just keep that in mind here.
My name is Abigail.
Into the microphone. You can lower it.
My name is Abigail Armbruster, A-R-M-B-R-U-S-T-E-R, and my husband Edward. We live at 377 Twig Lane. We did not get a letter, but we would like to request party status.
So noted, please. Yeah, please fill out the form. Anybody else online? I think there's no anybody else in the room. You can come up and speak, please, so that everybody can hear what your question is.
Yeah, hi, this is Tom Hughes. I just wanted to understand how it was determined who would be getting a letter. I think earlier somebody said it was within 300 feet of the property. And there's a 155-foot structure that's going to go up. How is it determined that 300 feet was adequate for who would and would not be getting a letter?
The township zoning ordinance indicates that anyone who is within 300 feet, is that correct? Plus or minus?
Actually, the township ordinance says that only adjoining property owners get notice. And that follows the Pennsylvania Municipalities Planning Code. Lower Makefield, for as long as I can remember, has used 300 feet. So they've exceeded the minimum requirement of the state municipalities planning code and our township ordinance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do have another person here online.
Okay. Please state your name and address.
My name is Matt Thorne, and I represent my wife, me and my wife Andrea, and we live at 360 North Flint Court. And we did receive a letter, and would like to request party status.
I believe that name was Thorn, Thorn.
Correct. Yes.
What was that address?
360 North Flint Court.
It's a 360, correct?
Correct.
Matthew and Andrea Thorn, Thorn.
Yes.
360 North Flint Court.
Correct.
Okay, anybody else in the room here? who wants to request party status? I know everybody's going to have to come back again. So
Dr. Jeffrey Sibner, I'm at 352 Tall Meadow Lane. We did not receive a notice. We're probably just off the 300 feet. Sibner, S as in Sam, IB as in boy, NER. N as in Nancy.
SIBNER.
okay, anybody else? Okay. So I'm gonna turn it back over to Russ, and I don't know if anybody else is gonna make any other statements here tonight, but I think it's gonna be pretty limited about what we're gonna be doing starting at the next meeting.
Correct. Okay, so like I said, we wanted to get through some housekeeping, a little bit more than we anticipated, I think, but the parties that requested, the persons that requested party status, that will be reviewed and addressed at the next meeting. Just because you signed up to have party status doesn't mean you can't withdraw that request as well. And it doesn't mean that additional parties or persons can't take party status at the next hearing, which then turns to the next hearing, which is when substantive testimony will be presented by the applicant after we get through determining and making a ruling on the party status of the individuals who requested it. I do know that some of the attorneys circulated some dates, and it looked like May 2nd was a date that worked for most, if that works for the board. We can
We
also,
have a scheduled meeting on May 2nd. At this point, there's only one other appeal for that day. So the motion would be to continue this appeal to May 2nd. When we get to that point, I think we're looking for opinion first before we make the motion.
I'm available.
Hmm.
I'm available. Still available. What is the other item on that agenda?
Jim?
I don't recall, but I believe it's not anything of major substance. It should be a fairly quick application, maybe 10 minutes to half an hour.
Okay.
And I guess I should point out to everybody here that in the interests of, we would probably do that quick application first, since this discussion will be rather open-ended and likely to continue to a third meeting beyond that. All right. Does anyone want to make a motion on continuance here?
I'll make a motion to continue to May 2nd.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so this will be continued to May 2nd.
and just so it's clear, there won't be any more notice. So you won't receive notice in the mail of the May 2nd hearing. By continuing this hearing to a date certain, that's sufficient notice.
And that would be at 7:30, correct?
Yeah, 7:30. And Jim can point out the public noticing that's available on the township website.
Yes, and just for everyone's information, the meeting will be a hybrid meeting where you could attend in person, or you could call in, watch the meeting on YouTube, Facebook, and I believe our cable TV channel. We typically post the agenda for the meeting on the Thursday or Friday before that meeting, so you could see where everything is on the agenda. Also, for everyone's information, the plans that were submitted in support of this application are available on our zoning hearing board webpage, lmt.org, under zoning hearing board.
Okay, any other comments that are applicable right now from anybody? Okay, hearing none. Motion to adjourn.
Actually, I do have a comment. Mr. Schubert, would it be possible for your client to produce a rendering of the cell tower? I know there's a drawing in the plans, but I think a rendering would help us help us better make a decision. So
Actually, what I'm going to do and suggest to the client is to conduct what they call a balloon test, where they would actually fly a balloon at the targeted height. That way they can get an accurate representation of what's being proposed. And also then the residents can also view that in relation to everything else. Now, it is a little bit shocking because the balloon itself is about 6 feet in diameter and it's bright orange. So it definitely sticks out. And there's a good reason for that because they want to make sure that they can see that for taking photographs. But I'll talk to them about that and see if we can schedule it. And normally what I would do is in a situation where there is a lot of concern expressed by the residents, I could provide notification of when that balloon would be flying. That normally is done first thing in the morning because that's when the winds are usually the quietest. And they could keep that balloon up for usually a couple of hours. But again, it's dependent upon the wind. Once winds get up around 8 to 10 miles per hour, then it just starts flying around too much. So I could coordinate with the township in that regard and provide some notification, and that could, I imagine, be posted on the website as to when a proposed test would be proposed.
Yes,
That's
we
a
could
great
put
idea.
notification. We could put notification out on our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn.
And Mr. Hughes?
you're gonna be walking up and down.
I also request that we still get a rendering of the 155-foot structure against the background there. In addition to,
I'm sorry, if I wasn't clear, then what they would do is they would do a photo simulation and take pictures around the neighborhood to kind of give a better idea of what it would look like.
okay, thank you.
Okay. That was useful.
That's all I have.
Anybody else on the board? Okay.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned for this month.